following thoughts, opinions, stories, and expressions are meant for those who will appreciate them. If you don't, we hope you keep an open soul to encounter another here on 34 Questions. Peace. In 3, 2, 1. What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. I'm your host, 34, and tonight I have a very special guest. Devin is in the building. How you doing tonight, Devin?
Absolutely. I'm doing all right, man. And that's the best way to put it. You know, I've had a relaxing 4th overall. I was kind of surprised. And just having a good time. I'm glad to be on the show. Thank you for having me. And I'm ready. I'm ready for this.
Sure, man. And I want to thank you for stopping by too. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. Are the 4th, you said it was a pretty chill 4th. So do you normally have busy 4ths, or you doing stuff?
You know, when I was growing up, yes. The last few years, most of the time, it's pretty relaxing. Nothing like too crazy. You know, I'm not going to any fireworks shows. I'm not, you know, I've seen enough boom boom stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of one of those things, like, you know, I can watch a lot of that stuff on TV. I've seen over that bridge in Britain. They always have like a huge firework thing for like Jubilee. Then you got like the New Year's fireworks stuff. I get it. I know how they work, you know, powder. I get it. It's great. But no, I say chill because I got 2 cats. They're big and fluffy, and they are just terrified. They're kind of like dogs in a way. They don't like, you know, loud noises, boom, boom, clack, clack going on. And I was surprised. There were a lot of people around us that they kind of cut everything off, I guess, pretty early because I didn't wake up to like 2, you know, huge cats sitting next to my head while I'm trying to sleep. It was great.
Nice.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I mean, the fireworks seem to always go off like so long on that one day, or on July 4th, right? I know it was popping around my neighborhood till like midnight, usually 9 to 12. I've had experiences where I had to go to sleep like at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock when I had work in the morning super early, and it would be just the most annoying thing, you know, like and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I get it though. It's like, come on, man, like I get a little bit, but you gonna do this for 3 hours? But
I know it's one of those things where like I see those videos of like whether it's a community organized thing or like it's Billy Bob whatever, and they've got like a million things of fireworks set up, and then somehow they screw up the fuses and they all go off at once, and it's like a big scary thing, and it's like and everybody freaks out. In a way, if you're the like audience there, you're like, all right, let's get the show on the road. Like, let's just get this going. Let's wrap it up. Like, I'm tired of hearing boom, and then you're waiting like 6 seconds, and finally, you're just like, come on. Like, let's get this going. You know, like I gotta beat the traffic. I gotta do all this stuff, and it's like, at that point, is it really like Independence Day, right? Like you've had your hot dog, you might have had your beer, you might have had your favorite like soft drink, whatever you want to call it. You know, you're thinking about traffic and stuff. Like, come on, we got to go to work the next day. Like you're not like, this is Independence Day. You know,
I agree with you. And I think we're showing our age because I agree with you.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. When I was younger, I was like, 4th of July is one of the coolest days ever. Like I get to bring, you know, a punk out or a lighter, and I just, you know, run around the front yard. And yeah, it was a grand old time. And now I'm like, they're running around and popping stuff. My cats have to sleep. Like, yeah, man.
I hear it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, so thank you for sharing your stories. But before we get really into the interview, I have to tell the folks out there who are unfamiliar with the flow of the show what it is. So we normally start off with a few warm-up questions just to set the tone. After that, we'll jump into a couple icebreakers. After the icebreakers, we'll turn to the Wheel of Fate, where we'll give it a spin. Whichever number it lands on, that's how the conversation will flow. And then after that, we'll finish it off with some closeout questions. Sound good to you, Devin?
Sounds great.
All right, man. I asked you how you were doing. My second question for you is, what would you like the audience to know about you?
You know, that although I wear these overalls and I've got a beard and I'm like this white guy with glasses, I am not like intimidating at all. I'm always shocked whenever I hear people say, like, I kind of have like a resting stone face. I know that some people use the B word for that, and that's, but I will say that it's like one of those things that I'm like, I've heard a couple people, whether it's people close to me, not close to me, they're like, yeah, you can come off intimidating. I'm like, I'm not the tallest guy in the room. I'm definitely not the strongest guy in the room. And I'm kind of chubby. I don't know. Like, why would they do that? And so I'm not intimidating. And then I would say the other thing is, like, as much as I am like any other typical person that loves watching like sports, I'm a baseball fanatic, love the stats and everything going on with that. I am an avid fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. I love RuPaul's Drag Race. And I'm not gay. I'm married. I have my wife. Doesn't mean you can't be gay, but just saying that it's one of those things. Like, I have gained a huge appreciation for that whole realm, not only of TV, but of that culture. And yeah, it's like one of those things that I think a lot of men could learn not only comedy from that, but they could learn to appreciate like some of the skills and stuff that takes, whether it's actual dancing, whether it's exotic dancers or your burlesque, or you have your drag, performers. There's like a lot of work in that. I can't do that stuff, man. I couldn't do the makeup and the dance numbers and the choreography, the lip syncing with every single song that is going to come up on a playlist and do all this stuff. And I found it surprising. It's been what has it been, about 4 or 5 years. And yeah, like, people every now and again, you got to give something a try or a chance that you normally wouldn't. And for me, it was more that it was just a reality like competition show. Other than like cooking, culinary competition stuff, I would, most reality, I'm like, I am not a Survivor fan. I don't care about The Bachelor. Why would I care about this? And now it's, oh man, it takes over your life. She's got All Stars, regular seasons, the UK, Italy. RuPaul's going everywhere. So like, if it feels daunting that you can't catch up, you can. I promise.
For sure. Yeah. That's what's up, man. Yeah. I mean, it's not a show I have checked out myself. I do. So like, it seems like you've been exposed to this side of society, or a pocket of culture that like, what do you think is what took so long to get to that point? Show it.
So I think what took so long for me would definitely be, I grew up in Southwest Missouri, and specifically Christian County. And so like, we had more churches than gas stations, right? Brad Pitt, he's from like a similar area. He's from Greene County, which is like the county right over. And so he said that like in a 60 Minutes interview that, yeah, more people sought God than gasoline. So it's one of those things where when you have a culture that's based off of something that many believe to be sinful or not good, that's part of it. I never grew up really all that religious. I think the other part is just being in that type of environment. People don't like using the term toxic masculinity, but I know it exists, man. I know it does. I experienced it. I know that I can remember like when I would be playing sports or what have you, just the comments, the stuff that you hear, whether it's from the crowd or your own coaches, like, yeah, you look back at that now and you're like, yeah, that was not very PC. I have to admit. And so it's one of those things where I think part of it was that. I think the other part is everybody tries to be very good about not judging a book by its cover, right? And that cover is super colorful. It is super loud and like, you know, just flamboyant is a great word for that. And it's meant to be. And I think for a lot of people, especially me in the beginning, it was one of these things of like, I don't know if, you know, I like stuff like Breaking Bad. Like, how am I going to coexist loving Breaking Bad and liking, you know, something like RuPaul or like something like a competition drag show? Like, that just seems a bit odd, especially if I'm not part of that community directly, right? I'm not homosexual at all. And so it's a spectrum for everybody, obviously, but it's one of those things where it's like, I know I'm not in that. How can I appreciate it? And you realize that it's just like, you can appreciate it in so many ways. And as long as you do, and you stick up for people in that community, as well as the performing art of drag, which has been around for a long time. You just realize that it's like, it's kind of like sports or anything else in life where it's like, you just have to have the thing that you're wanting to stick by, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I was born in Missouri. I'm a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan. Why do I just act like the St. Louis Cardinals getting to the playoffs or getting to a World Series is like, just, oh man, it weighs on me. Like, every time we get to September or October, I'm like, man, what is our record? How many games back? Like, what are we going to do for this and this and this? and it's the same thing. Like, the game doesn't matter, right? It's more about my enjoyment of it when they do succeed. And it's the same thing with like drag queens. There's one that's from Southwest Missouri. Her name is Crystal Method. And and she's great. She's amazing. She's weird and she does all these crazy things. Like, it's like one of those things where when she was on the show, especially, which it was only a couple seasons ago, so I'd been watching the show for a while, it was just crazy to see somebody from my area of the world and they're doing their own thing and I relate to it and I'm not part of that community at all. Like, it was this crazy feeling. And so it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside about something that you never thought you would have that feeling about. So it's
for
great.
Sure. I mean, in a way, you like, aside from being a drag queen competition, in a way you're still part of that community just because she's from your community, right? And so it's easy to root for when I'm from San Francisco Bay Area, so when someone like makes it from here, we're all cheering for them, you know? It's just like, then we get together. It doesn't matter, you know, usually what they're doing. If they're doing something great, then we can support them easily, or like we want to. The energy is just there. No, I hear you. And as far as the intimidation thing, the reason why I asked is because I haven't gotten into it myself. I don't think I've ever given it a chance. And like, I was just wondering for myself, like, why is it taking so long? And I'm not a big competition person, like as far as American Idol and you know, those kind of competitions. So maybe that's it, but also maybe it's just because, you know, like, I haven't given it a chance. So this is giving me something to chew on. And back to the intimidation part, I think it's the beard, man. Like, especially if you,
it's gotta be,
if you're in deep thought, and like, you know, you're in the zone, people just look at you. You probably look like somebody that's unapproachable. But I hope they can tell from your personality on the show right now that you're a very approachable person.
Oh yeah. I think maybe I furrow my brow too much. You know, I feel like a cartoon character at times. I'm just like this all the time,
like that, okay.
You know? And I'm not trying to do it, right? And then the glasses, they might think that, like, I don't know, I think there's too many things that people are like, I bet that guy's been bullied. You know, he's a bigger guy. He wears glasses. I haven't heard him speak, but I bet he doesn't have a super deep voice. Like, I bet there's something about him that, and you know, they're like, he's been bullied. You got to watch that guy. Look, his brow is furrowed. And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, hey guys, have you watched RuPaul's All Stars this season? Have you guys pay attention to that? You know, and yeah. But no, the beard does it every now and again. And then other times people get kind of like, they just wonder how long you've been growing it. That's usually the question I get. Yeah.
I hate to be that person, but how long have you been growing
it? So this, right now, I did get it trimmed. This is only, what would that be? A couple months. I think it was early.
2 months?
Yeah, early May, I think, was when I got it trimmed. So I had the beard before. It was like probably like down to here-ish, and then I got it trimmed up. Gotcha. So before then, I would say I had been growing it since like full blown, just I'm not gonna touch it. Probably end of 2019, probably.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, I don't
the
know
problem is I get curly cues on my sideburns, and then I you know, people were looking at me and I'm just like, sorry, like I got this curly weird things going on. You can't see my ears, and it's just like,
whoa,
you know,
I got you.
Yeah, and so it's just like, what is going on with that guy's beard? You know, it just looks like you know, you don't want to use the term like Unabomber, but you know, you kind of get that vibe of like, man, you've been out in the wilderness. Like, what are you doing? Like, you don't have a trimmer, scissors, nothing. And you're just like, I don't know, man. I just don't have to touch it that often. It's one of those, you use beard oil or whatever and stays soft as a kitten, man. It's just, you know, keep it around.
I wish I had the patience to grow something like that. I don't think I can wait 2 years for it to manifest. But nah, I honestly can't tell. It's probably, like you talk about the curly cues on your sideburns, it's probably your headphones. You ever think of getting like a fade? Like it fades down?
Oh, yeah. So like right now, if you look, like it's slightly faded.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, when it gets long, that's when the curly cues come out. And same with my hair feathers. If I was in the 70s, man, woo, watch out, ladies. Like I would have been, man, I've got the feathered long hair, the curly beard and all this stuff. But no, in 2022, everybody's just like, ooh, like go get a haircut, like go do what you need to do, you know. And it's like, you watch RuPaul, you don't maintain yourself, what are you doing? Like, come on, man. So yeah, that's how it works now.
If you're happy, then I don't think anything else matters.
Yeah. For me, it's more the wife. You know, I gotta make sure. You know, if I cut it too short, she's like, "You are a baby. Like, what is this?" And I'm just like, "I'm sorry. I've got the typical like chubby white guy face. I don't know." You know, I just look like I'm too young. I don't have the age on me yet. Right.
Yeah.
So once you get the age on you, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you grizzled, like, ooh, wow. Like he has character, something's happened. Oh, you know, but no, I'm still fairly young. So if I shave, it's just like, hey everybody. Like I'm just like, you know, brand new, man.
No, I feel you, man. At least you know you have that in your back pocket. If there's any point in your life that you need to look young, you just be like,
right.
Boom.
I gotta go on the run.
Exactly,
get a discount somewhere. Yeah,
for sure. All right, man. I gotta move us on to the third question, which is, if I could do something to express the energy you possess, what could I do for you? Like, how would you like to be honored?
Yeah. So there's 3 different things. And so I know it's just, you know, one part honored question, but I definitely would say the first thing is if you can donate to Alzheimer's cancer research. Those are 2 big things that have impacted my family quite a bit, impact a lot of people. The second thing is visit, respect, and through Amazon, if you do smile.amazon.com, when you order stuff, if you're, like me and you're like, man, I gotta order stuff. I need it in 2 days. Dang it. And so you're going through it. You can do smile.amazon.com and you can donate to Alzheimer's research, cancer. There's a lot of different organizations, but I do the National Park Foundation. So visiting a national park, going to a national park and respecting the grounds and everything else, but also just giving money where you can, because in a way, we're kind of loving our national parks to death, like tons of people go to national parks. And so it's one of those things where I think a lot of people think, oh, I pay that entry fee. It's paying for all these other things that are going on. Well, you still have to have amenities. You still have to have people taking care of those amenities like bathrooms, trails, roads, all those things. And the entry fee, it covers a lot, but it doesn't cover everything. And those natural areas, I think there's times where we forget that very easily could have been bought by somebody like a Bill Gates or a Jeff Bezos and turned into the next ski resort somewhere. And instead, we get to enjoy it as a nation, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my second thing. And then the third thing, I would say that, really taking a deep breath and sitting back and just looking around at the people that are around you, whether it's friends, family, even like those people that you work with that you at times are like, I wish I didn't know your name. Even those people, you have to realize that you're around them for whatever reason, and that we're all people, and that in a way, getting this far as a civilization as we're in right now, it's kind of remarkable. Like, it's really crazy to think that we live in a place where we all can kind of co-harmonize with each other, even if we have our bouts of really awful things happening. There still is quite a bit, especially in the US, that kind of connects us together rather than separates us. And I enjoy, because I think my brain goes to the negative quite a bit, where really? Oh yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten that impression, honestly.
I know. Well, it's like they say, right? Like the happiest, jovial, right? Your Robin Williams of the world, right? They're the ones who, when the lights are out and everything's quiet, it turns into a bad neighborhood up there, right?
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things where, for me anyway, I try as hard as I can to just take a deep breath and kind of realize it's pretty remarkable that I've got the cats that I have. My wife reminds me that a lot. She's like, I found these cats and you didn't want them. You were like, oh, well, maybe we should wait a day and adopt the little cat later. But I made you adopt that cat. And now look, he's your best friend. And and it's like, yeah, as much as I don't want to admit that, it's at the same time, it's like, yeah, I love my kids, love my wife, love my family, friends, all that, even the people that I work with in my day job. It's like, I can't believe we're all together in this moment, and we're all at least trying to do our best. I think most people are. They're trying to do their best.
For sure.
And so, yeah. So just sit back and be like,
I got you, man. I got you. It sounds like you got a deep appreciation for life in general. And that's something I can appreciate as well, coming from you. I think, I don't know, but it just seems like not enough people are counting their blessings as much.
It's hard to remember them all, man. Right?
True.
Easy to remember the minimal things that are just bugging the F out of you, right? But all the things that we are blessed with, whether it's a roof over our head, food easily reachable, plumbing, you know how many centuries we've had where there was no plumbing or sewage system or nothing, and we're living in a time where that is, you know, it's like, oh man. And so yeah, I mean, it is easy to point out all the little things that are doing that because of how many good things we do have. So yeah, it's difficult. It's like something that everybody's got to work on, you know.
For sure. Thank you for your answers. And now we know exactly how we can honor you.
Yeah. Do it, people. Do it.
I think we will, man. I think we will. Honestly do.
Yeah.
And then my last question for you in the warm-up is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you know yourself?
I like this question, man. This is a good one. So honestly, I would say right now it is an 8. I would say there are days where it's a 10, where it's like anybody could come up to me, ask any question, and I'd be like, you are going to get the raw, organic, from the field Devin right now. Like, you are going to get that person. And then there's other days that, yeah, it's like a 2 or a 3. And you're like, who am I? How did I get here? Why did I do that? Where is this going? Do I even know what that is? Like, you kind of like lose yourself a bit, and it ebbs and flows, right? But I would say I got a diagnosis medically not too long ago of something that I had struggled with for a long time. And it's one of those things where I would say before that diagnosis, I was very much like on a regular daily basis, instead of an 8, I was probably like a 5 or a 6. There were a lot of things that where I was just like, what the heck? Like, how come, you know, I can't do this or do that, or, you know, change this, change that. And, you know, part of it is like not being so hard on yourself. I think honestly, you get to know yourself when you're able to evaluate yourself and understand who you are. And that includes a lot of stuff that, like on a resume, so to speak, are your negatives, they're your cons, right? It's like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. That's what I am. That's my con. Like, okay, yeah, we get it. It's like, no, actually, you're a poor actor. Like, you're not good at delivering that answer. Like, you know, and it's one of those things where, yeah, I think right now being on average at around an 8 every day. That's and I like it. It's way better than being at a 5 or a 6 most of the time. And it's one of those things where the people who are at 5 and 6, you know, they fluctuate too. There's days where they're 9s and they're 1s, right? And so it's one of those things where all it takes is usually a few different things to kind of click in, or an experience, sometimes a good experience, sometimes a bad experience, for that number to go up or down.
For sure. You know? No, that's how I normally describe my answer to this question as well. I'm at a 5 on average because it's always up and down. And depending on where I am in life, if I'm in a great place, probably 8, 9, 10. If I'm in a bad place, I'm probably 1 or 2. Because, you know, like, let's say some people out there are very confident on the path that they're going, right? And then some unexpected life event happens where now they can't do that path. So where are you going to go then? So I think that's where knowing versus not knowing happens. But that's dope, man. I'm glad you're at an 8 now. So you're on the peak instead of a valley. But sounds like you have the right point of view, though, right perspective of knowing that even if you are in a valley, it's going to end up going up again.
Yeah. And if it goes down, you're going to learn. Like, you'll learn something. The number doesn't stay the same. It will. Yeah. And sometimes, like, that's like, I don't know. There's times where you don't want to feel like you're suffering, so to speak, but you do want to. There are times in life where it's like, yeah, this is my turn to like really grind this time period out, right? Like, this isn't going to be fun, but I got to do it. And you do what you have to. and you go through it and you realize how many mistakes or misdirections that you took, and you learn. You live and you learn.
I hope we learning, man. I know for me,
yeah. I haven't
me
been taking notes, which
yeah.
But yeah.
It's all in here, right? It's all in the head.
Yeah. So there, it grows out of my face. I just pick one off, That's
Yeah, I mean, I think we can say that, or I'm sorry, I grouped you into we, but I think I can say that because I've made the same mistakes over and over again, and then I'm still making similar mistakes almost every day. So I'm still trying to grow, trying to learn that lesson, man. I just like, how they say insanity is like doing the same things expecting a different result. I'm not ready to admit I've been sane just yet. So
right, exactly. Yeah, I haven't gotten a call from a hospital of any kind, so I'm gonna keep doing this. And then one day, Devin, please come to the front desk. And I'm like, oh no. Like, this is the day. This is the one. It's like, man.
And as long as you keep, people who accept you around you and close to you, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Right.
And I hope the people that think we are crazy can like at least be open to talk to us and, have that conversation before the judgment, y'all, before the judgment.
Exactly. You're judging my book again, man. Like, no. Don't be doing that. You haven't read the inside cover, the back cover, middle pages. I got a photo section in the middle, kind of like biographies. You ain't been there yet. Come on, man.
That's a crazy a metaphor, man, because I'm thinking to myself, I always read the back covers when I was a kid. I don't know if you were familiar with VHSs, but so I would always read the back of a VHS just to get the plot summary. So I think this, people don't judge the cover, but at least read the back of the back page. And I think this podcast is the back page of that.
Totally.
So, all right, boss. We made it to the icebreaker portion. But before we do that, I got to remind the folks out there that if you are enjoying the podcast, please like if you might, share if you care, subscribe for a vibe you didn't know was there. Back to it.
Yeah.
Let's head over to the icebreakers.
Let's do it.
Here's the icebreaker stage, man. So I got two for you. The first one is a point of view. I'm going to give you a couple statements, and you're just going to let me know if you think they're true or false, you agree or disagree, or any thoughts you might have around that statement. So my first one for you is overthinking is a bad thing.
Yes, if it is about emotions and negativity. But overthinking is an okay thing if it's about your surroundings, like you're kind of like your initial thoughts or your intuition, so to speak. It deals with like your survival. It taps that like monkey brain of yours, right? Like if there's something like that, the overthinking part, it's kind of just to be on guard, to be cautious, what have you. But if it's about an emotion or a situation that's happened, or it's dealing with negativity, like, man, I could have done this better. Like, I wish I could have done, but next time I'm going to do this and that. Yeah, it can be quite the negative thing. But I've overthought on a few different situations, and I'll hear somebody say like, oh, I never thought that would happen. And I'm the only person in the room who's like, yeah, I thought it would. Yeah. I thought it definitely would. And I'm glad I thought of it because I got out of there, unlike you people. Like, that's, one of those things where it's like, there are certain instances in life where your brain's going to race a bit. And I've noticed when it races a bit and it's a good thing, usually it does. It's always something intuitive, something that you can't explain immediately. But then after something happens, you're like, oh yeah, this is crystal clear. Like, I totally understand why my brain went that way. Me and my wife, I took her to up in the Seattle area. There's a greenhouse in this park. It's near Capitol Hill. And there's quite a bit of a transient homeless population up there, But one of the, like, there's this guy sitting at a park table. He's got his laptop out and he's keying around, you know, doing stuff. But he's got his laptop bag next to him. And there's this guy, we walk around this corner and there's like trees, bushes. It's Washington. They have tons of trees and bushes. And so it's like you walk around this corner and there's a bush right behind that table that the guy's sitting at. And I just see this head pop out of the bush. And he's like looking at me. And like, I'm looking over at my wife and I'm like, hold on a second. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And you just, you know, it's like, why is there a guy in a bush? Like, this is not
normal.
And yeah, like, this is not, like, what is going on here? Well, eventually, since I stopped in my tracks, right, and I got a camera around my neck, I look like a typical tourist, right? Like, I'm like, oh, let's go to the gardens, like, you know. And it's like one of those things where I like stopped, and me and my wife stopped, and she's like, why are you like totally stopped? I'm like, this guy's got to get out of that bush. Like, I'm not taking another step until, you know. Well, what he does, he hops out of the bush, he grabs the guy's laptop bag and starts running away with it. And the guy has to chase him down. The cops get called. All this stuff happens. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, yeah, he was just looking for something, right? Could have been my wife's purse, could have been my camera, my wallet, who knows, whatever. And I don't know that person's situation, but like, it's one of those things where it's almost like in my head, I knew it was like, this guy ain't going to be asking for a cigarette, right? Like, like this guy's looking for something more. And yeah, your mind races because you just know something's off. But then there's other times where, I've thought way too much about something. And then I'm like, oh, well, that was never going to be a problem. Glad I spent an hour and a half thinking about all the ways this could have gone wrong, and it's not even something I have to worry about now. And so that's when you feel like it's a wasted time. Way to go. Could have been playing a game, could have been cooking something, could have been enjoying myself, and instead I was making myself miserable. How dare I, you know?
Yeah, man. And I mean, you know, the reason why I have this question, because I do consider myself an overthinker. Earlier, you mentioned something about how, you know, up here can be a nightmare sometimes, or it can get really dark. And I think I spent a lot of time as a kid, man, in that dark place. I grew up an only child, so I had a lot of time to think. And I think that's where I wouldn't call it an addiction, but just my preference. I would rather, you know, overthink a lot of things. Like, I think what you were talking about earlier was like assessing your surroundings, assessing the situation, and being hyper aware of like what's going on.
Right.
My dad would tell you that I'm not like that at all. But I think for me, like if I'm in a new place, I start looking for exits. I guess I start looking for, emergency routes in case something does go down, or where I can hide and stuff. What's it called? And I think, I don't know for you, this is a weird thing I think about, something I think I consider no one else thinks about, but sometimes I think if I ever got into my lowest point where I was homeless, pretty much, I think, and I go to places and I'm just like, how can I utilize this area that if I ended up here, or, you know, is there an under or overpass that I can find shelter in, or is there, you know, some free public thing that is offered here?
Right.
Now that I'm saying it out loud, it's weirder than I thought.
To make you feel better, it's probably because you have a lot of empathy, man. You empathize with people and you wonder, how did they get there to that point? But then you kind of look inward and you're like, well, if I was at that point, what would I be doing? Like, where would I be going? What would I be doing? And that happens. It does happen to me every now and again. The reason why, like I said, growing up in Southwest Missouri, there were not a lot of like city areas. And so there's not very many homeless. And it's because everything is 20 miles away from each other. and it's not like a city where everything is walkable and you have those resources and you have those things that you can get to. And so coming out to the West Coast and the places that I've lived, yeah, you kind of think that, like, the second you see anybody that you can kind of tell is like, yeah, they're living out of their car, they're living on the street, they're doing what have you. Yeah, that thought kind of comes in of like, I that's why I say that one guy, in the bush, I don't know what his life situation was, but it's one of those things where I try not to, it is hard, but you try not to judge them or the situation they're in, because honestly, you have no idea what, into them being there. And I think, like, in my mind, that's a little scary, because you kind of go, well, what if that could happen to me? Like, what would I do then? And you start trying to like rationalize, like, I wouldn't burn that many bridges. I would have friends that I could talk to. And it's like, I think a lot of people think that way. But like, what happens when you take a risk and it doesn't pan out? And those people, like, when you took that risk, those same people didn't like you for it. Mm-hmm. And either one, everybody ages, everybody passes away, or they just don't want to talk to you. And they don't care. They don't care enough. And that's where it hurts. And people don't want to think that way, right? But it's sad. It really is. It's but no, I've done that every now and again of like, if I lived on this one street, that Five Guys, yeah, I'd be looking for peanuts quite often. Like, it's a quick snack, like, there's a park on the other side, so that's where you get your water fountain. All right.
I guess this is home base if it ever happens.
Right, exactly. Yeah. This street in this city, I think, you could set up shop. I think it would be all right.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing that perspective. That hasn't been a way I thought about it. As far as like empathetic way, my negative mind overthinking about it would probably think like, oh, am I just, how when they say, you manifest stuff through your thoughts and feelings, like, is it a part of me that's manifesting like this not so great ending,
right.
And I mean, I hope I never get there, but now that you told me it could be a sign of my empathy, then I'm like, okay, that kind of makes more sense. Or at least that's the truth I choose to believe now.
There you go, man.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Ride with it. Just, that's in the steering column. You just keep going with it, man.
I think what you said about your last piece, I don't want to butcher it or paraphrase it, but it kind of segues into this next statement, which is, how much, like, should we care about what people think of us?
This is a tough one. I've battled that question, I think, a long time. I think a lot of people do. Overall, the only reason why I dislike this is because my mom said it when I was younger. She had like a little picture of it or something. But Dr. Seuss has a quote, of those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think that's the thing that like people have to hold on to is you want people to always think the best of you. But at the same time, there are folks in this world that, like, no matter what I do or did or say or whatever, they would not think highly of me. And so it's one of those things where you're like, do I really need to care what those people think? Like, and another weird quote to throw out here, but RuPaul in a song, and says it on the show quite often, if they ain't paying my bills, I don't pay them no mind. And that in a way is true. And I think like family and friends, they do pay a bill for you, and it's emotional connection. It's not money. It's not, and that stuff, that's why that is so precious, is because it's not something I can go to a bank and ask for a loan for, right? All I can ask from them is forgiveness. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like that emotional like bill that you have, or that, connection you want to feel, that enjoyment you want to have, just fulfillment in general. That's the bill that those people pay. And you pay that bill for them as well. I mean, you're a part of their lives. And so that's kind of what makes it all kind of worth it. And so I would say, to the question overall, no, you should just be your authentic self. And unless what you're doing is hurting others or is possibly like a misdemeanor or felony, penal code, what have you, even then, I don't know, marijuana was illegal for so long. And people in the 60s knew, like, this is dumb. This is like, why are we doing this? And so it's one of those things where basically the people who, if you partake in marijuana, go, well, that's against federal regulation. And so that's bad. You're a bad person because you do this. Those are the people that's like, yeah, I don't care what you think, really. Like that's, yeah. And I, like I said, because of my job, I don't do that. But I'm still not going to judge somebody who does. Like, sounds like a fun ride. Like, what, why not?
I'll speak on behalf of all the people that do, and want to let you know that we appreciate you, or people like you, people like yourself, man. That's hilarious. But all right, so just a heads up, man, we have about 10-15 minutes left in the podcast.
Let's do it.
I just want to say thank you for coming through again. I hope you're enjoying yourself.
This is great.
And so you have a choice right now. We can skip the second icebreaker, which is the word association, or we can go to the Wheel of Fate to give it a spin. Either way, I'm kind of leaning towards just doing the word association, and maybe even save the wheel for maybe a part 2, because like,
let's do it.
Where we're talking about, a lot of good stuff, and I think you deserve a second episode just for the wheel itself.
Awesome, man. Let's do it.
Let's jump into the word association then. The record is 12 right now. You basically have 34 seconds to give me as many responses as you can. I'm gonna throw you a word, and you give me the first thought or first word that comes to mind.
All right.
Let me pull up the countdown. And here we go. In 3, 2, 1. People. Whoa. People.
Culture.
Pain.
Agony.
Regret.
Always.
Crazy.
Psycho.
Fear.
Can be conquered.
Happiness.
Enjoyment.
Food.
Is everything.
Life.
Death.
Hope.
Obama.
Failure.
Regret.
Age.
Sorry.
Ooh. What was that last one? What was the last one?
Is a number.
Age is a number. You got 11. You were so close.
Man.
That was a good run, though. That was a good run.
It was. I was going to say, I like sat there thinking about it, and I'm like, man, am I trying to do one word, or can I combo this? I tried to use, what do they call it? Conjunctions. I was using conjunctions. That way you can't use it as a counted word and word made by Microsoft. I will do that. But 11, I'm happy. Double digits.
Double digits, man. That's something to be proud of for sure. That's one word every 3 seconds. That's almost 2-3 seconds. So yeah, no shame in your game.
Yeah, man.
I do want to ask you one thing though. When I said regret, you said always, I think.
Yeah.
Why always, man?
Always, because if you're thinking about regrets, they'll always be there for you. They will be. Yep, they'll always be there. Yeah. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's like one of those things. Like, the reason why I said always is because, like, when I think of people who that I would think would not have any regrets, right? Your Michael Jordans of the world, your Tom Brady's, right? you're sitting there thinking like, they can't have regrets. They did amazing things, you know, even if they stumbled, it led them to where they are, right? And you think that way, but it's like, man, they got regrets that like you don't know. You have no idea. Like you know, they it could be something that we would find to be really stupid, like, and they would regret it. You know, they'd be like, yeah, man, no, 8th grade. We were supposed to pick, you know, our team's animal. I said bird because they can fly everywhere in the world. I got made fun of 6 years, all because I said bird, man. And then I played a guy in the NBA named Larry Bird. Hated it, man. Hated it. And you're like, what? Like, why? You got 6 rings, Mike. What do you care? Like, you know, but that's the thing. Like, he ain't going to talk about that. He's going to talk about cigars and championships and all those good things. But yeah, but no, all regrets will always be there for you. Just don't let them lead your life in any way. There's good lessons in some regrets, like, because sometimes, kind of like what you're saying, you feel like you repeat yourself.
Yeah.
And like those situations may come up again. And if you correct it, if you are actually able to change what you did the first time and do the opposite, you've kind of fixed it for yourself. Take that regret off the list. Like, it's gone now. I corrected it.
I hear you, man.
You know?
The reason why it popped out to me so much is that I am a person that I consider some of my actions and what I'm fueled by as regrets, you know, some bad decisions I used to make. I would tell myself like, oh, this is me pulling that rubber band back on like a slingshot or something. Further, the more mistakes I make, the stronger the launch will be once I finally let go. You know, I think I'm in the process of letting go and doing all that good stuff, but you're right, it's always there. It's like one of my longest friends is regrets, right? Like you were talking about something in 8th grade that Michael Jordan might be tripping off of. I know there's definitely stuff 6th grade for me that I'd be tripping off of every once in a while. And it's crazy. I just hope the older we get, the more we can I guess move past it, or it matters less. But man, sometimes, you know, right now I'm still feeling the effects of regrets I've had in my 20s. So I'm just trying to use that as fuel as much as I can.
Right. Well, and that's what the younger generation is for, whether it's like your own kids or like a niece or a nephew or just younger people that you interact with on a daily basis. It's one of those things, like, inevitably they will come up and tell you a story or talk to you or do something or ask a question, especially little kids. They love asking questions. You know, it's like one of those things where like you definitely can like get, oh geez, I'm supposed to learn Italian, and I got this Italian EDM song playing every time I'm trying to learn Italian. Sorry about that. But anyway, but no, they will come up and like they will start talking about stuff, and inevitably whatever they're saying, you're like, yeah, that's like one of my biggest regrets, or like that's a thing that I totally bungled and screwed up when I was little or when I was a kid. And one of the ones that I've had for so long, I played baseball, right? And inevitably, because of where I hit in the order, whether it was 4th, 5th, or 6th in a lineup, it's like when we got to the end of a 7-inning game, it's like I always came up either as the person that needed to get on base to get something going, or I was the one that had to knock in a game-winning run or what have you. You know, like you're that last out.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, you talk about a mental, just like track meet, like your brain is just going fast. You're trying to get the signals from your coaches on the third base side. You're looking at where the runners are about to go. This pitcher, you know that they've only thrown you like 3 out of 4 pitches that they may have, and you're like trying to decipher this whole situation. And instead, I think I should have been thinking, this is great. Like, this is a high pressure situation. Like, this is exactly what you want. This is what makes or breaks any great player. And if you don't succeed, It doesn't mean you aren't a great player. It just means, yeah, you didn't make it that time. And so you move on, you do what have you. But that's with age. That's looking back. That's with retrospective, right? But I hope that if I have a kid, or like, you know, I've got a nephew that he's going to be playing, you know, sports and stuff. I hope that I can impart on them that it's like those higher pressure situations, like in a way, you should be grateful you're in it, because it's going to show you what you need to work on, or it's going to show that you were ready. You were ready for that situation and you did what you needed to do. And like, there's all these times that I think of, like when I was up and instead of hitting, you know, a double and scoring the run, I did, like in my analytical brain, the smart thing, which was like I took the walk, and then the batter after me, you know, hit it to the ground ball and the game's over. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I feel bad because I'm like, man, I didn't get a single or double and the guy didn't score. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but you got to walk, which means if you did swing, you would have swung at balls and then you would have struck out on something you should have walked, right? Like it's like you can play the game all day and change those things, but that's like something that, every now and again, you know, you got those weird dreams where you're like, yeah, I recognize that weird field. That's in Fordland, Missouri, and it's ball field number 5, and I know exactly when this is. And then you wake up and you're like, put me in, coach. Like I could do it now. I'm an adult, you know, like, man. And so, but if I've got the nephew or younger kids that are like, man, I just don't want to, like, what if I get put in this situation? You can give them that perspective of like, I get it. You're young. It's scary. Just enjoy it. Like, just enjoy it. Have fun. And if you fail, everybody who loves you now is still going to love you. And everybody who likes you right now is still going to like you. It's one moment. Right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And I hope your nephew listens to you, man, when you say that. Kids like to ask questions, but they also don't like to listen to the answers.
I know, especially if they're long, man. You know, I'll admit I was the same way. It's not because of phones or whatever. It's just you're a kid. You're like, no. What's the point? Punchline. What's the point? You know, and Grandpa's like, well, was it 78 or 76? And you're like, it doesn't matter.
No doubt. No, I work with kids now, with high schoolers, and I always feel like I'm dispensing advice that they never asked for. But I think it's important because, you know, it's stuff like lessons I've learned, and I wish I could tell my high school self. But now I hear where you're coming from, though.
They always think that like their life or their situations, since it is theirs, it is specific to them. And so it's very hard, like as a teen, to think like, oh yeah, that, you know, that counselor, that teacher, my mom, my dad, they understand this. Like, no, like they didn't grow up with Instagram and all this other stuff going on. Like, what do they know about? And it's like, man, church rumor mills, you thought Instagram was harsh. Like, whoo, you wait until, you know, some granny from 6 towns over is like, I heard what you did to Mr. Johnson's hay bales and we're gonna come and find you, and you're like, what? That's not even me. I'm telling you, man, it's like one of those things where they can't equate it because they're like, well, who cares about that person? It's like, dude, my mom and dad cared about that person, and if they heard anything that person said, they would take it as gospel. And you know, Instagram kind of does that with some people. You know, if they say like, you know, I love this thing, then it's the best, according to a ton of other people. Yeah. And you're just like,
you gotta get the cosign. You gotta get someone to say they like you, and then everyone likes you.
Exactly.
It's interesting
get
how
the
it
likes.
works that way.
Got to get the likes, got to get the people hashtagging and retweeting and doing all this stuff. I chase it too, you know.
It is weird, man. It's weird to know that we shouldn't care about what people think, but then also trying to do something where that it relies on what people think of what we do. So being in this purgatory limbo It's a challenge, but I think we can do it.
Yeah. We'll make it out. It'll be all right.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. So we made it to the closeout question portion of 34 questions. But before we do that, I want you to participate in this little exercise called the 34th mantra. I'm going to ask you to fill in a phrase. It's I am, I can, I will. So I am blank, I can blank, I will blank. Let me know when you're ready, because I'm going to put you onto the stage. Probably the most uncomfortable part of the podcast, just because you'll be talking to yourself. You won't see me in the picture. But let me know when you're ready, and I'll head you over there.
Hit it.
Here we go, man.
All right.
Go for it.
All right. Hey, man. So I am a good and lovable person. I can do better and listen to others who care and genuinely want more for me. And I will accomplish the things that I need to and help others accomplish those things as well. Because remember, you are a good and lovable person.
You are, man. You are.
Yeah.
And I wish, it doesn't matter how much I can tell you that. It's always going to be that voice in your head, right?
Right.
That's going to matter the most. But just know, you got a fan in 34, man. So
awesome.
If that means anything.
Yeah. I mean, it means a lot, man. You talk to a lot of folks and you work with young people, man. I tell you, it's a rough gig working with younger people. It really is. It's one of those things you know how they always say like, oh, kids say the darndest thing, dude. They can say some harsh stuff. Like, do you have any idea what sometimes they can like say, or you hear that they say? What? Like, man, oh man. And so, yeah, it's one of those things. And like also working with younger people, like especially in a school environment. I know you said it's after school, right?
Yeah,
like,
I do work with it's after school.
Dude, yeah, that's when their lives like click back in, Like that's how I remember it. That's how I remember it is like when you before school, so like before the bell rang and you had to go to your classes, that was like you and your friends somewhat like hangout time, and you could gauge like how everybody was doing. Like a couple people would be like exhausted and they're like barely munching on a Pop-Tart, and then a couple other people, they're like, yeah, man, I got this class today. We're going to do this and this and this. Oh man, I'm so like, we're going to do that. And you're like, I don't care, Johnny. And then like you move on to whatever, but then you go into your classes, and that's kind of like your work day as a kid, right? And so you're just like kind of going through the motions, but being like a latchkey kid or having to go to like an after school program type of thing, it was back to social hour, right? Like lunch is so fast anymore. It's like 30 minutes. Like, heck, man, there's Seinfeld episodes longer than a lunch period anymore. Yeah. So it's just like, dude, like we're going to talk about stupid stuff and then I got to go right back to class. And so it's one of those things where it's like it goes back to that social hour and it's longer than the morning one, right? And so it's true. Like, yeah. So it's like that's when your life clicked back in. And so you learned things in that time, but also like you gained experiences in a way, like, whether it was like you figured out that a friend was dealing with something you didn't know they were dealing with, or they're, some guy or gal you're talking to, you're like, am I developing feelings? And so it's, man, life clicks back in. It's not about what you got on some quiz or what chapter you're supposed to read that night. You're like, I'll deal with that when I get home. Like, right now, I got to figure out my social standing. I got to figure out what's going on,
That is interesting, man. And thank you for bringing that to my attention, because we do have challenges of kids. Like we have the kids who love what we do, but aren't really participating in our programs. I got to think of it in that social aspect, like you're talking about. And like what our kids... in my mind, my job is to get these programs filled up. I need to get the signups and get kids excited to learn outside of school, and hopefully something that feels more like an elective versus something they're forced to learn.
Right.
But yeah, man, I think the kids, like when you say social hour, it does make me think of how many times I've seen kids just come in because their crush was there, you know, and just be like, oh, I want to spend time with them because this is the only time.
Yeah. You're like, Zane, you do not care about art history one bit. You draw stick figures, and I saw you making googly eyes at Samantha over there, and that's why you're in here. Like, you know, it's like, that's, yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I'll admit, it's totally tricky. I did, what was it? It was like 90 some odd hours of student teaching for a computer hardware class in a high school, right?
Yeah.
And I always felt the social dynamic underneath everything that you did. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be doing a certain lesson, and to keep them engaged, it's almost like I had to throw something that I heard them say before the class even started. Like, you know, like I had to do something to kind of rope them in. And then since I roped them in, it was kind of like, oh, dang, man, Mr. Ream's watching us. Like, I know he's doing, you know, and it's like, dang it. And so they're kind of like caught in, but if you can do it in a way to keep them engaged and they like it, right? Yeah. Where the word engagement doesn't even like show up. They're just like, no, I genuinely like this. That's like where it's at. And when you get them in that mode where they genuinely like it and they're learning a lot of things, whether it's as an educator or as a person of interest, that's just like kind of like what you're saying, I'm trying to get these programs filled up. They are going to enrich your life in some way. I just hope that we can get it to connect. There's no better feeling than somebody having like a genuine enjoyment of what's happening, because you know that becomes like what their passions are and what they're going to eventually develop into. And you're like, I found that thing for them. Like,
yeah, that's a win, man.
Like I got it. Win. Like, yeah. It's Curry, man. Curry draining the three. That's like, yeah. It's like I shot my shot and it went in, and I know it went in, and it's like awesome, man. Like, sure. Which makes you think like Curry, he does it way more than he should. Like, dang, man. Like, jeez.
That's what makes him great, man. That's what makes him great.
Yeah.
And I think I hope that's what we're all striving for in our work or in our careers, or, you know, whatever we're pursuing, is that we're trying to be, if not the best, at least somebody that's known as a professional, someone that's a pro at what they're doing. But yeah, no, you're right though. Like, my happiest moments at work is when I see a program really take off, or kids are super enthused about it. And in my mind, and I definitely appreciate my boss, because she'll always check in on me and be like, so what you think? How you feeling? And, you know, I keep it short and sweet. I'm just like, you know, this, it exceeded my expectations. It gives me a heartwarming feeling that I feel like I know what I'm doing. It's like affirming, right? Like, 'cause who knows what we're doing most of the time. But when you see something work that you had a vision with, and it's like, damn, you know, you're on the right track. So
anything of a pursuit where it requires like an intellectual component, the main thing that I try to remember is that intellectual component usually means there's not a guided set framework already in place. Right?
Yeah.
So like when you go to work at McDonald's, whether you hate it or love it, you know exactly what's going to go on any burger or any whatever. And on the screen, like, it's going to tell you what they do or don't want. And it's very rigid. And for some people, man, they work amazingly well in that. And then there's other people that they're like, dude, this sucks. I hate doing the same thing over and over again. It was okay for like 2 days, and now I'm just bored. Like, what is this supposed to be like? And so kind of like what you were saying, it's like trying to implement these programs where it's like, there is no like 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. That's not how this goes. Like, I have to gauge how you're reacting. Then I have to see what we can do to develop more. And then I have to, like, I'm basically playing with something that I don't know the outcome of. And it's that intellectual component, man. It's the thing that is like, it's so hard to really explain it to I would say a younger person, just because I know when I was young, you think everything is very black and white. There's only a couple things that are gray, Mostly everything's black and white. And then all of a sudden, you get through college, you go through things, you do what have you, and you realize like, no, there are way more than 50 shades of gray. There is like a million miles of gray. Like you don't even have any idea. Like and you're like the black and white, the people who are still focused on that aren't thinking. Like that's,
I hear it, man. I hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, we could definitely break it down some more.
And
I think
we got to go on. There's a show here.
We'll save it for part 2. We'll save it for episode 2.
Yeah.
But all right, man, we made it to the closeout portion where this next question is actually from my previous guest. And shout out to Julian Quickstad. Julian's question for you is, how would you make the biggest impact in the world? Like, if you were to make an impact on the world, what would you do to make the biggest impact?
Man, that is a good question. Yeah. If I were to make the biggest impact, I would try to figure out a way to make a bartering / non-financial economic system that could meet everybody's needs.
That's going to be tough, man.
That's very tough. I just got done with an episode on my podcast. It's the Maldives. They used to use seashells as currency. And I was thinking about it and I'm like, how would you judge a seashell and its worth? Like, is it like the bigger the shell? Is it the colors of the shell? Like, how did they, like, is it a particular type of shell? And then like, depending on, Maldives is like 1,000 different islands, right? And they're just spread across the Indian Ocean. So you're kind of sitting there thinking like, were certain islands, were they richer purely because those type of shells were washing on their shores?
I got you.
Right?
Yeah.
So like you like, and that's the hard part, is you're trying to like figure out what's going to make it non-equitable, right? And I just think that money, at least the way that it's being used throughout the world today, the more of it that you have, there's all these implications, there's all these things that are portrayed on it, mostly good, but there's quite a few things that are bad as well. And then if you don't have a lot of money, it's the opposite. You mostly have a lot of bad things attached to you and only a couple of good things. And instead of having all these things that you can't control, right? It's money. Like if you have a certain set of skills, you should be able to have that valued by whomever, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. And it's about making a good equity, something equitable for everybody. And I think it has to be something that's, like I said, like a barter, where it's like I can provide this knowledge, this thing that I do, and this will cover 5 heads of cabbage and a thing of mushrooms. Like if I can help you do this and that, can you teach my kid how to use this and this? Like, that kind of thing. But at the same time, like that's hard, because then you've got these like renegade people that are just like, I'm going to learn everything and then I'll never have to ask anything from anybody. And you're like, yeah, really, huh? Brain surgery. You can do that on yourself? Like, like, come on, man. Like, it's one of those things where like, I would try to make a financial system that is not based on a digit that it being higher or lower changes your entire outcome of your life. I would try to hopefully create something like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, more power to you. I think, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but, it's always...
This sounds like it.
It always helps with
it's the daydream, right? Like that's the thing that like, it runs up there like a mouse in a house, man. It just runs around. Yeah. You're just like, what can I do to find? And people are like, crypto. And I'm like, no. It's still based on a digit. It's still based on something that like, and it's mining and all this stuff that I don't want to do.
I got you.
Yeah.
I'd be thinking though, like Julian Quickstad, who gave me this question. Yeah, he mentioned like, he gave it because he likes to dream big, right? So if you're gonna think about that, it's a very big dream. But I think the reason why I said wouldn't consider it impossible is I think you had the right people working with you on this, on this mission. That's one thing, and also, scaling it down, because I'm a big dreamer too. I have Change the World tatted on me, and I wish I could scale that down a little more. Like maybe I should change a country or change a state or something like that. So so for yourself and that vision, that daydream, it's all about having the right people and maybe just scaling it down to maybe your town, maybe your state, and then plant those seeds. So then generations will get inspired, right?
Right.
But yeah.
It's one of those things, you never know what will just completely build a community around itself. It's like you're saying, how many people kind of latch on and can, help divvy it out or do what have you. At first you got to start with your community, and then it goes to a state, county, whatever. And then, So if you hear about people, trading, I don't know, lettuce and all this other stuff throughout Oregon, it might be something I caused. I don't know.
I'll tell folks that I know that guy. So
exactly. An Oregon woman traded 5 paper clips for a duck tonight at 11. And you're like, oh, that's that Devin guy. He did that. I bet he figured it out. Yeah.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah.
My second to last question for you is, what would you like to ask the next guest on 34 Questions?
Man, sounds like the guy before me, he took a good one. I would say, since like I said, I deal with food a lot, especially with whether it's my podcast, daily life, what have you. I love it. Can't get enough of it. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. So I would say, if you could share a meal with a community or a set of people that you don't understand very well, who would they be?
Interesting. Sure.
Yeah. Whether it's them sharing their food with you or you are sharing your food with them.
I'm just writing it down.
Yeah.
But let me think about this one. I've started to answer this question at the end just so I can answer one. But if I could share a meal with a community or set of people that I don't understand well, I don't know. If I had more thought about it, maybe I could get a better answer. But right now, I want to say rich people, man. I want to say the elite.
Rich people.
Just the people that are making so much money that they don't know what to do with, and maybe the folks that continuously still want to build their wealth. I want to ask them a bunch of questions about like why and is there anything more you can do for the world? But I'm sure people have their reasons, but I just want to know. And I think I would want to maybe have it like a potluck where I bring something to share it with them, and hopefully they bring something they can share, because I'm pretty sure rich people are going to bring something fancy I've never had before. And I can bring something Filipino that maybe they haven't had before.
There you go.
But
you're like, here's some adobo, here's some lumpia, come on, man. What'd you bring, Jeff? And he's just like,
caviar, thanks.
Brought caviar, foie gras, and 5 pressed duck. You're like, jeez, Jeff.
Everything
I bet my food's better than yours. I bet my food's better than yours. And it would be amazingly better. And that's like the thing that I find interesting with all that kind of stuff. I figured out not too long ago that one of my relatives way back, they were Osage, Native American.
Oh, snap.
And I I would try to share a meal in my own self-interest, right? Obviously, but that would be one, is try to share a meal. I would hope they share their food with me, because my food is not going to blow them away, but their food, it would be something that would be totally a different experience. And then to understand the culture, what's happened throughout time, all those good things. I would love that. For in general, I would love to share a meal with probably, and granted, Jose Andres, he's already doing a big thing of this already with World Central Kitchen, but I'd be sharing meals with those folks in Ukraine, probably. Hearing their stories, good, I hope. Hopefully not war-torn stories, but, good things of like, what do you remember of these things and those things, and just trying to provide comfort with that. Because, same with the folks in Afghanistan, to be honest. Yeah, same thing.
For sure.
Just your world gets upended by things that, you don't have much control over. It's, it's a crazy thing.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I know I don't have too many Afghanistan friends. I met this one guy. He kind of told me a little bit about his experience, and it blew my mind. I was like, that was your childhood? That was, we're around the same age, so he lived through all that stuff. From my end over here, I'm watching it on TV, like, oh shit, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. You're just getting the snippet news story, right? He's talking about weeks and months of his life, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like, whoa.
What do I say? Oh, I'm sorry, bro. That's crazy. I can't believe it. That's all I can say.
You've got the platitudes that, just, oh, wow. Oh, man. Dang, I bet that sucked. Like, you just, it's like,
how can I relate as much as I want to,
I know. Yeah. I've noticed if you just say something towards the effect of like, I'm just glad you're here to tell me.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's basically saying, I'm grateful that you as a person, one, explained the situation to me, because I never would have heard it otherwise. And two, just being the person that they are, Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But it's tough. It is tough. It's so hard. I have a journalism background, and I talked to a guy that was going to the University of Oregon, and he was from Iraq, and he grew up during the Iraq War, and similar situation happened to me where he's explaining what he was going through. And you're just like, oh, like I know what I was doing during those years, and it was not that. Like, oh my gosh, like, and you just, it's astonishing to hear, whether it's asylees, refugees, their stories, man, life altering. I don't think people can come away from those conversations without having a gut check, it's,
they're a different person, man, for sure. Like, from I guess, I don't know what you call normal, but someone who's been through that amount of things in life, it makes you a very unique person, having a unique experience. Hear that.
Totally.
All right, boss, we made it to the very last question, the question that ties everything together. 100, 200, 300 years from now, your descendants are watching this video. What would you like to tell them?
Yeah. Sorry about the heat.
They might like it. I don't know.
I know, right? Yeah. I hope that what I did during my lifetime has impacted you all in a good way during yours. And I hope that the world has gotten better from the collective efforts of everyone involved, because that is who everyone is. We are all in this together. Doesn't matter if you're in a hut somewhere in Brazil in the rainforest, or you're in a house in Ukraine, or you're, in Norway trying to, help with a certain community. We are all in this, and we come from different perspectives that are all glorious and amazing. And that's life. Everybody chases to figure out what life is about. And I think everybody will still continue to chase it, but to love others, to be loved, and to help others, and to always remember that human beings are human. Don't lose it, because that's when things go awry usually. And so I hope that we've done a good thing, and that what I'm saying makes sense, and that it's not 300 years from now and you're like, man, there's 2 countries in this whole world and we're still shooting rockets at each other. I hope it's not the case.
I got you, man. They hear you. They hear you. You're gonna hear you.
Yeah, you better. I got a loud voice. Dang it. I got a beard. I hope you all can grow beards in that time. Oh, man.
They might have I don't know, maybe the style at that point might be beards to the floor, and we're just rocking super epic beards. Who knows?
Maybe like hair follicles are like floating, and so you can change your hairstyle and do all this stuff. Yeah, it just floats around you,
I can just, do the twist on my mustache and it stays that way.
Exactly. Yeah. Just stays that way. No pomade, nothing needed. You just.
It was the McDonald's, man. The McDonald's.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Did you know McDonald's started as a fast food burger chain? They're like, nah, man, they're like the best hair company out there. We're like, what? Sitting in our frozen cryodomes, we're like, what is this? Yeah.
It's gonna be like Futurama, where our heads, and it's just our bodies,
Right. Yeah. We'll be like the Nixon head, just floating in water. Oh man, I tell you.
But all right, boss. Anything you'd like to add before we head out of here? Why don't you tell the folks out there, and possibly your descendants as well, about your podcast and where to find you?
Dang right. Yeah, Culinary Convo. We talk about food, cuisine, culinary arts from around the world throughout history, and also in your own backyard. We talk over recipes from family cookbooks, from chef cookbooks, but mainly, as of late, we've been doing Mapping the Culinary World, where we talk about different countries and their food. And then we also talk about Plate in Time, which is me just picking a year and going over all the things food and culinary wise that happened then. And then also I do United Foods of America, and that one lately, personally, has been interesting me quite a bit, because I thought I knew quite a bit about food in the US, and I'm learning new things each time. So it's really great. And I just hope everybody can catch us at www.culinaryconvo.com. We're on all the platforms. I think every time I check my RSS feed thing, it's like you're on 9, 10 providers. Like wherever you get podcasts, go and look and find us. CC, Culinary Convo, you can listen. And I hope to see those numbers. It'll be great. And same with 34. Check out 34 and check out Our Last Meal Pod, or Our Last Meal with Andrew. Really great. That's how I found Mr. 34 here. And you get to join a great little community within our little podcast world. It's really great.
For sure, boss. Thank you, Devin, again for stopping by. Please don't forget to send me all that information in an email so I can make sure it's in my description or info section, wherever you're checking us out. But yeah, man, this was a great conversation. We didn't even get to the wheel, so I'll be looking forward to a part 2. I don't know if you need or are looking for any guests for your pod, if anything I could bring just to return the favor. Let me know. I would love to stop by your space and your universe as well.
Totally. But you can hop on. You can hop on any time. I will. You know what? There are countries that I promise you do not know the name of, and you can hop on, and me and you, we will go adventuring with our little culinary machetes and figure out what we can find. It'll be good.
Yeah. That sounds great. That sounds great.
We'll be good.
We'll talk more about it after off camera, right? That's what we say. But yeah, man, thank you. And I want to thank all the folks out there. If you're tuning in on YouTube, watching on Spotify, or watching on YouTube, tuning in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I want to thank you for your time as well. Remember to reach out, reach forward. As always, much love. And we'll catch you guys next time on 34 Questions. Peace.
Peace.
And it fades from